Happy Tuesday. Decided to do a little live today because I feel like after posting today, I've had a nice few messages, and I figured that I share a little bit about my story in a live so you get a sense of how I was able to get here. And it's really interesting how and amazing how the Lord has opened up so many opportunities to have many discussions with lots of people. Know that it's not just an online presence and knowing, oh, she's always posting and blah blah blah. No, it's really like I really am amazed at the amount of impact that one person's experience can influence others. And so one thing that I've always desired since I've started blogging about 10 years ago is where is my area of influence and where can I make most of the difference. And that's been something that has always been in mind, is like, where is my purpose? What's my purpose behind doing the things that I do, whether it's food blogging or doing in, life, just in essence. What's the purpose? That's always been the biggest question, is why. And, I'm coming here almost to the second year of being at goal weight. And it's been really, I'm amazed to think, I was talking to my coach yesterday, talking about what it was, where I was, and what I looked like, and what I was feeling when I decided to make a change. And I can tell you that I was done, that I was tired of making excuses for myself, that I was tired of being the way I looked, the way I felt. In a society that talks about body image and we're supposed to love ourselves the way we are. Maybe that works for some people, but for me it didn't. And it was something that I needed to put my foot down, that there was a reason why I was feeling this way. I did have a lot of energy to do, and sometimes I realize, how did I keep up with that energy to raise my 3 girls? And I remember being so tired and frustrated and angry, and I was running on 5 hours of sleep, and I was juggling a full-time job, working from home, and keeping a house, and full-time blogging, and there's burnout. There's only so much that we can do as human beings. We're trying to achieve, do, and there's only so much that we can do and that God calls us to do. And being at the lowest point of saying, I don't want to look like this, I don't want to feel like this, I'm not even representing the Lord well in the way that I'm just unhappy. And on top of that, I was in a mental health state where it was unhealthy. I was the victim. I was constantly aware of people judging me, which it wasn't. No one was judging me. It was just all in my head. We play these little mind games and these crazy, like, that everyone's out to get me. And it's this really negative headspace, really relying that as a believer, I had just given up on surrendering my life to the Lord. I had pretty much given in to the lie that I could be in control of my own life. And the more control that I wanted, the less control I really did have. It was chaotic in here. Chaos was coming out as being obese. I mean, 255 pounds, y'all. Chaotic in toxic relationships. I was constantly crying and asking, like, why was I attracting toxic people, and why couldn't I have a normal relationship? And a lot of this has, and just changing the way of eating, it's not about the food only. It's a deeper seated issue. And as I've had the opportunity to talk to people one-on-one or two-on-one or whatever, it's a lot of deep-seated issues. Some people might not have problems with associating food and having a food addiction, but I can tell you that a lot of people have food addictions. And one of the things that has made and is making a difference for me is this devotional that I've been doing. It's called Addictive Habits, Changing for Good. And it's an easy 31-day devotional. And I wanted to share one today because I was thinking, how would this benefit so many people? And just hearing why we can't change. We want to do something. We try it for 5 days or 1 day or 3 days, and we're back in the saddle, choosing bad habits and feeling grumpy and feeling disgusting, whether it's food or other things. So if you give me a moment, I'd love to share this with you and see how it blesses you today. So on day 4 today, it talks about unloving and hating your habit. So in essence, even if you don't believe in God, the fact is that we all have good and bad habits, and it's just realizing what are those habits and how are they affecting our lives and how are they wreaking havoc, not only for ourselves, but for those around us. So here, I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. That's in Romans 7, verse 15. So in the aftermath of failure, it's usually easy to hate our sins. After you've given into that piece of chocolate cake or taken another drink or succumbed to the temptation to click on that link, feelings of guilt make it easy to hate your addiction. Given enough time, however, you will again be attracted to it. Isn't that the case? I'm going to stick to this diet. I'm going to do it for 3 days. And then you're back to that. You're attracted to, like, I want my comfort food. Most of us both love and hate what we do. True change requires us to be honest about the love-hate relationship that we have with our various addictions. Perhaps to our surprise, the Apostle Paul can relate to this tension. Paul writes in Romans 7 about his own struggle with the flesh, his tension between the desire to obey God and the desire to sin. He has the desire to do what is right. But when he goes to do what is right, there is another desire at work in him. He doesn't do the good that he wants to do, he says, but instead he does what he hates. Paul knows what it is to be double-minded about his sin. So double-minded is a good descriptor of how we often feel about our sin. We hate it and we want to change. But when we make efforts to do just that, we find that we still love our sin and don't want to give it up. Can you see your own double-mindedness at work with your own addictive habit? Maybe you hate your impulsive buying, but when it comes time to cut up the credit card, you have second thoughts. Maybe you hate pornography, but when you feel convicted to lock down your screen, your smartphone, you hesitate. Maybe you're reluctant to confess your sin. After all, once it's out there, you're inviting accountability, and you're not ready to change. God knows your internal struggles. He understands your love-hate relationship with your sins and addictive habits. It is important to be candid about this tension. If you pretend that you perfectly hate your sin, you will not be prepared for the hard fight that awaits you. There is something you love about your habit. And here, this is what I ended up underlining and starring, is that there is something that you love about your habit. And what is it? When you hate your sin, what do you hate about it? And identify this tension so you can be prepared to fight hard against temptation. Paul knows that hold that our sin has on us, but he also knows the one who can free us from it. Who can free me from this body of sin? He cries out. His answer is Jesus. And you most likely have a love-hate relationship with your sin. Be honest about that relationship, for only then will you be inclined, like Paul, to cry out to Jesus for rescue. And, you know, one of the things that I've tried to be as vulnerable as possible is, for me, this has been a lifelong battle that I finally had to admit that it was an addiction. And that, but knowing what led me to this addiction is another step. Knowing and accepting and saying, I have a food addiction. I love food a little too much, has become an idol, and that's all I think about. That's all I want to do. I binge, I throw up, I eat more, binge. It's just a whole mixture. This is where food problems come in, unhealthy food disorders, I ended up realizing that I used it because I hated myself and I didn't love myself. So while I enjoy the aspect of food, I used it more as a tool to destroy myself because I didn't see myself as being good enough, that I was good enough to have a healthy, living, thriving life. And the fact is that we matter. We are more than conquerors through Christ Jesus. He is the one that gives us life and breath. We are the reason for why we're living on this earth. And for such a long time, I've been thinking that there's something better out there. And it's always been here. Jesus has been waiting for me. I've been a Christian all my life, but it's now has just in the last 2 years has made so much sense that he just wants me to surrender myself. So there could be trauma that we connect with, that we allow to self-soothe ourselves. So for me, food was my self-soothing mechanism that led me to being addicted to food, and is something that I have struggled and probably will struggle for the rest of my life. But knowing that now that I have claimed it, I have said it out loud, I cry to the Lord, is that he has delivered me and will continue delivering me. But I want to have and share with others that there is that option of knowing that if you're wanting to change your habits, your bad habits, that there is an option. There's so many possibilities. It's just claiming and saying, I want to do what is right, and I know that I'm going to struggle, and what am I going to do it? We can't really do it on our own strengths, even though there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of books. I've read them, and the program that I use, that I coach for, has a lot of books that have helped me to create a healthy mindset, to learn about nutrition, to learn about health. But most of all, it was a fast before the Lord, just saying, I am no longer going to be controlled by food. I am no longer going to seek solace, comfort. I'm no longer going to use that as a crutch to allow me to survive. And you know what? The more you do that, the more things that God chisels off of you, because realizing I had reached gold about a year ago. And then he showed me that I had another addiction, that I was really addicted to coffee, which, right now I'm on day 17 without coffee. And I thought, this is going to be horrible. When I first started, there's going to be no way that I can do this, because coffee can't quit me. And again, I'm limiting God's power and what he can do. But it's been amazing that in day 17, the first 2-3 days, I had headaches and it was bad. I went to sleep early and stuff like that. It's been really amazing the last 17 days, just seeing that coffee has no hold over me, but knowing its addictive qualities, knowing that coffee is a stimulant. There's studies that show that if you have an addiction already, that coffee can become another addiction. That people that have addictions as it is will have tendencies to be addicted to things that allow one to be addicted. So knowing oneself, knowing first what is controlling you. No one else should be controlling you other than God, and being in his presence and knowing that he is the one that can take on everything, every trial, every bump in the road. And you know what? It's been really quiet lately as far as like drama goes, but I've been prepared in saying, Lord, I know that my tendency that when there is drama going on, or there's chaos or some relational issue going on, that my tendency is to respond by eating the wrong foods, stress, coffee, cheese, comfort foods, all that stuff. But knowing now, being aware of those things and saying, Lord, you're the one who takes over this heart situation, and being able to surrender to him. So if you're interested, I just read something out. You can go back and watch the video. I'm going to post it on the wall. It's called Addictive Habits, Changing for Good. If you want lasting change and you don't want this to be another diet, another temporary thing, you have to change the deeper seated issue, is that we have no control over our lives. In fact, yesterday's chapter talked about what we worship. If we worship food, that's going to be the biggest thing. We too become what we worship, only we don't usually worship cattle or little statues. I mean, we worship things like money, sex, physical appearance, possessions, control, and respect. And I underline control and respect because we want to control as females. I don't know about men. I'm talking about what I know is that I need to control every aspect of life. And even then, when I was saying that I felt out of control, is that I truly don't have control Jesus who lives in me in my life and gives me breath and life and gives me power, that same power that rose Jesus from the dead lives in us, that I no longer have to rely on my own strength to take care of everything or take care of everyone, that he wants me to allow me to heal from everything that's happened in the past and just place it before his throne and say, Lord, you are the healer, you are the restorer, and that he wants us to live thriving, transformative lives so that we can bring others with us, and that's a beautiful thing, is that, the opposite goes when we worship something, we become that. I was that. A result of what I worship was food, was being obese. I was showing to others that I cared for nothing else and not even for myself. And I sometimes get sad that I wasn't given enough. I look back and then say, no, I'm not going to go there and saying I wasn't being God's disciple and being the best image of him, but knowing, hey, I can leave that now in the past and move forward and say, this is what I want to be. This is what I be forever. So if you need prayer, if you need someone to come alongside for support, especially spiritual support when it comes to a habit, I make a list of people that I pray, and I pray for you every day, because the power of prayer, I've been seeing it. It's been amazing. So if you want to break from a habit, I want to be there praying for you, knowing that God is the one who transforms from the inside out and allows us to bring others in that space and knowing right from wrong. So thank you for listening. And if you didn't get to listen from the beginning, I did read about a whole chapter out of this devotional. It's a 31-day devotional, but I'm not even through with it because I'm reading through it even more every day. But take care and have a lovely, lovely Tuesday. Blessings.